The market street thrummed with life under the fading afternoon sun. Vendors' shouts mixed with the sputter of scooters and the chatter of passers-by, while the air carried the sharp tang of grilled meat and overripe fruit. Amid the chaos, 16-year-old Eli stood frozen near a fruit stall, his worn backpack clutched tightly. His eyes, wide with fear, were locked on Victor, a black belt thug whose name sent shivers through the city's alleys. Victor's shaved head glistened, his scarred fists clenched, his sneer cutting like a blade. He loomed over Eli, his shadow swallowing the boy's slight frame. "You're testing me, kid," Victor growled, snatching Eli's collar and yanking him close. "This street, this market, it's mine. You pay protection, or you pay in pain." Eli's voice quavered, but he didn't back down. "I don't have any money. My mom's sick, we can't even afford her medicine." Victor's laugh was cold, cruel. "Sick mom? That's your excuse?" He shoved Eli hard, sending him crashing into the fruit stall. Oranges tumbled to the pavement, rolling like scattered dreams. The crowd slowed, their eyes flickering with unease but staying silent. No one dared challenge Victor, whose black belt wasn't just a rank but a promise of brutality. He stepped closer, kicking an orange into the gutter. "Maybe I should visit your mom, see if she's hiding my money." Eli scrambled to his feet, his face flushed with defiance. "Leave her alone," he shouted, his voice cracking. He lunged at Victor, shoving at his chest, but the thug barely flinched. Victor grabbed Eli's backpack, ripping it from his shoulder and dumping its contents, textbooks, a cracked pencil case, a worn photo of Eli's mother, onto the dirt. He stomped on the photo, grinding it under his boot. "You're gonna learn, kid. Nobody says no to me." Eli dove for the photo, desperation in his eyes. "Stop it," he cried, clawing at the ground. Victor laughed, grabbing Eli by the hair and pulling him up, his other hand raised to strike. The crowd was a wall of silence, fear chaining their feet. Mothers pulled their children away, vendors averted their gazes. Eli's heart pounded, his hope fading under Victor's grip. Then, a shift. A man stepped from the crowd, his presence so subtle it was like he'd been invisible until that moment. Lean, wiry, with short-cropped hair, he carried a quiet intensity that stilled the air. His face, lined with resolve, locked onto Victor. Jason Statham, a stranger to this street, moved with a calm that felt like the calm before a storm. The crowd's eyes followed him, sensing something shift. Victor noticed, his hand pausing mid-air. He released Eli, letting the boy slump to the ground, and turned to the newcomer. "Who are you?" he spat, sizing up the man in the scuffed black jacket and worn boots. "You looking to get hurt?" Jason didn't answer right away. He tilted his head, studying Victor like a puzzle to be solved. Slowly, he shrugged off his jacket, folding it neatly and setting it on a crate. The act was deliberate, almost ceremonial, and it made Victor's sneer falter. Under the jacket, Jason's frame was taut, muscles honed by years of discipline. The air grew heavy, fear creeping from Eli toward Victor. "Just a guy passing through," Jason said, his voice low, steady, with a faint British accent. "Let the kid go. Pick up his stuff, and walk away." Victor's laugh was sharper now, laced with unease. "You think you're tough? This ain't your fight." He kicked Eli's textbook, sending it skidding into a puddle. Eli flinched, clutching the smudged photo of his mother, his eyes darting to Jason. Jason stepped closer, his gaze unyielding. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," he said, his tone calm but firm. "Last chance." Victor's pride flared, his eyes narrowing. He shoved Jason's shoulder, testing him. "You're nobody," he growled, but his voice wavered. Jason didn't budge, his stance rooted, his eyes piercing. The crowd murmured, their fear giving way to curiosity. Victor swung, a vicious punch aimed at Jason's face, his black belt skill evident in its speed. But Jason moved like a shadow, slipping aside and catching Victor's wrist, twisting it just enough to make him wince. A sharp elbow to Victor's ribs sent him staggering, gasping. Jason stepped back, hands loose, his calm unshaken. "Walk away," Jason said, his voice almost gentle. Victor's face twisted with rage. He wasn't used to being challenged. He charged, unleashing a barrage of strikes, punches, a spinning kick, each move precise but desperate. Jason was untouchable, parrying a jab, dodging a kick, and landing a precise strike to Victor's shoulder, numbing his arm. A low sweep buckled Victor's knee, sending him crashing into a vendor's cart, splintering wood and scattering vegetables. The crowd gasped, some stepping back, others leaning in, their silence breaking into whispers. Victor, panting, pulled a knife, its blade glinting in the dying light. "You're done," he snarled, circling Jason, his confidence fraying but his pride unyielding. Eli, clutching his photo, watched wide-eyed, hope flickering in his chest. Jason didn't flinch. "You don't need the knife," he said, his voice steady, almost kind. "Put it down. This ends now." For a moment, Victor hesitated, the blade trembling. The crowd held its breath, the market's pulse suspended. But pride was a cruel master. Victor lunged, the knife arcing toward Jason's chest. Jason moved faster, catching Victor's wrist and twisting until the blade fell. A swift knee to Victor's gut doubled him over, and a precise strike to his neck sent him sprawling to the pavement, gasping. "Stay down," Jason said, his voice soft but final. Victor didn't move, his chest heaving, his pride broken. The crowd exhaled, their murmurs rising. Eli scrambled to his feet, gathering his belongings, his hands shaking as he tucked the photo into his pocket. Jason retrieved his jacket, brushing it off and slipping it on. He turned to Eli, who stared at him, tears in his eyes. "You okay, kid?" Jason asked, his tone softening. Eli nodded, his voice barely a whisper. "Why'd you help me?" Jason's gaze flickered with something personal. "Someone helped me once, when I was your age. Said kindness keeps the world from breaking. I'm just doing my part." Eli swallowed, clutching his backpack. "I don't know your name." "Don't need to," Jason said, a faint smile breaking through. "Keep going to school. Look after your mom. You're stronger than you know." He turned to leave, blending into the crowd as the market stirred back to life. Eli called out, "What if he comes back?" Jason glanced back, his eyes steady. "He won't. But if he does, stand tall. You've got fight in you." The crowd parted for Jason, their whispers trailing him. Eli watched until he was gone, the stranger's words sinking deep. The world felt kinder, braver. He slung his backpack over his shoulder and headed to school, his steps lighter. Victor lay in the dirt, his reign shattered. And somewhere in the city, Jason moved on, his logic in his precision, his kindness in his courage, leaving the world a little better than he'd found it.